这一年确实比较艰难吧。
Edward Gaming finally fell off the expectations of LPL, hit reality, and reminded everyone that, hey, you know, we just barely qualified in the World Championship.
突破小组赛就是可能就能体现出我们这一年努力的价值。
Maker though with a follow-up pulse, might turn it back around for EDG. They're going in for a scout with a massive shuffle.
现在我们现在记录是0胜3败，我们一定要赢接下来的3场。
They sacrificed a lot to come together, but they did it to win. They did it for a stage like this.
롤드컵 우승이 목표이기 때문에 저희가 그냥 강력한 모습을 보여줘야 된다고 생각해요.
Xmidi gets choked down. Somebody heal, keeps him alive a few seconds longer. Long range death sentence.
We haven't played at the level that I think we should be. I feel like we haven't even played half as well. First game that we play on Elimination Day is KT. Are we gonna actually play our game?
TL looked very hesitant to do anything.
It's like life or death. If we lose a game, it might be over for us right there.
Welcome back to World's Countdown, about 11 minutes ahead of Game 1. We've seen a lot of unexpected champions so far at Worlds, and with our first game right around the corner, we're going to take a look at some key pocket picks, starting with Singed in the top lane.
Yeah, and something that's so cool about the group stage thus far is there are 19 champions that have only been played by one player. So there are a lot of pocket picks to go through, and Singed is one that jumps out to me because the first time I saw it, I had to remind myself that Impact wasn't on that team anymore.
Right.
So I think Singed could still see some more play, even though FLICKR has played it, and Impact is pulling it out here. If they get the right tank matchup, I think they can throw a wrench in the other team's plan because that champion plays very uniquely in the game with how much pressure it can apply in the late game, as long as you don't fall behind early, which does happen a fair bit.
I like the points towards the tank matchup and not falling behind because Singed in professional play is not the same as in solo queue. In solo queue, you can actually win lane release because people don't know how to trade against you. In pro play, however, it's all about team fighting for me and also like the pressure you actually bring because of your grounded effect. And that grounded effect is something that can actually counter the pocket pick I want to look at, and probably a pick we won't see too much, but I hope we will. It's Kalista in the bottom lane. Uzi got to play it. I think if you play around bottom side, you can actually use Kalista really effectively. I love the fact that she brings engage to her support already, and also safety if you actually are diving into the back line. I think that's something we already see now where a lot of teams are drafting engage to the support role. She brings more there. Plus, we see a lot of teams put a ton of focus on early Drakes. Well, what can Kalista do? She guarantees you even more security around these objectives. So I hope we get to see her more, but I can see a lot of AD carries are kind of stepping away from her.
Yeah, and speaking of all of the engage that is going down at the support role, the pick that I want to look at is the Poppy support, which PvB pulled out. Now, when you have Alistar basically ruling the meta right now, either almost like must pick, must ban, having a support that can disengage from all of this hard engage, I mean, Poppy's ultimate can be the most cost-efficient ultimate in the game, or it can be the worst ult in the game, depending on who you hit out of it. And if we can actually figure out a pick that breaks the Alistar priority, which I'm not saying it should be Poppy, but this is a very interesting niche that we might start going sideways into as Alistar continues to control this meta.
Right, and while a number of teams have found their wins off the back of these unique picks, I want to take a look at a role that's been dominated by two champions in particular, and that's the bot lane with both Kai'Sa and Xayah.
So Xayah, for me, is the #1 priority champion, and I think it's just kind of the balance of everything that she's going to bring. I know I just talked about Alistar, but Xayah kind of goes into this idea. She has so much security in her ability to follow up, but it's this idea of balancing the late game team fighting with the lane power. You get the 3-item power spike. She's so good against all of these dive compositions, nocturnes running around the meta everywhere, has the ultimate to disengage. I just think she's the easiest blind pickable champion and fits well in pretty much every single composition.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is that Kai'Sa, while being picked more, has been banned less, 22 picks, 11 bans, and Xayah's at 18 picks and 15 bans in the group stage. But if the day evolves and laning power for AD carries becomes more powerful like it did in the RNG C9 Vitality group, Kai'Sa could fall away without even bans, and then it only takes one ban to completely shift to the lesser played AD carries. And that's when you're going to start getting Varus, Sivir, Lucian, Triss, Jhin, Ezreal, Draven, like the more defined AD carries as far as either laning strength, wave clear, late game anti-dive, and that's when the AD carries are really going to be able to show some like personal expression on their picks.
Well, that's actually what I love about this group, because I feel like you need different strategies against all the different teams. It's not like we saw in Group A or B where it felt like it was the same meta for all of them, because here when you play against KT, you're going to have to attack them differently than you attack Mad Team, as an example, or maybe even EDG. With KT, you know you can't afford to fall behind early because then they will just run over you in no time. So you need strong laners, and you can't just go full scaling, even though Kai'Sa was used so much yesterday.
It's also the fact of the diversity that we're going to get. We saw KT versus TL. The very first game of Worlds, it was the Xayah priority pick. Then we know that Mad Team Breeze, they like to use the Ezreal pick. And then you have iBoy who pulled out the Lucian. So we should get a fairly good mix, and it's going to see who's going to prioritize that team
every
fight
game.
or that lane.
There it is. Well, yesterday we put a spotlight on the top lane, and today it feels only appropriate that with the teams we have to focus on the bot lane. We have Deft, iBoy, Doublelift, and Breeze all looking to take their teams to the quarterfinals.
So, starting with Deft here. Sorry to jump in for us.
It's all good.
I think Deft is very interesting AD carry to talk about because he's obviously a huge name that has been around forever. He's always been considered one of the best AD carries in the world, and he is still a very strong player, but he's actually not the main carry on KT anymore. There are so many good players around him. I think Yukal during this tournament already is looking fantastic. He has Score and Mata as his supporting crew. I don't think you can ask for anything better right now. So while Deft will be able to do his job, I'm not expecting him to be the main carry. And I think in the AD carry matchup, you could actually get an advantage in this group.
What about iBoy then?
It's hard. I just heard all these things about Deft, and I'm like, could you get an advantage against Deft, especially when he's next to Mata? If anyone can do
That's the problem.
It should be iBoy and Mako. They used to be the strongest 2v2 outside Uzi and Ming in the LPL, and we are a region that are stacked with the bot lane 2v2s. Now, iBoy has shown up. He picked up the Lucian. He's trying to play for kills. The number one thing to know about this guy is he is fearless, and that makes him a double-edged sword because he will always go for the kill play, which can leave him exposed, that you can quickly jump on him and tear him apart.
For the NA fans, they're looking at Doublelift to help carry them to a quarterfinal.
Yeah, the North American LCS MVP. He had such a great year domestically. He had a great MSI, but in the first round robin, he wasn't able to get involved in team fights. And that's going to be the big thing for this guy, is to find a way for his team to set him up so he can succeed. I feel like a lot of the fights he had on Kai'Sa, he never had the opportunity to get involved, especially when he's on a dashing-in champion, when Nocturne ults are constantly blacking out the map. So eye test-wise, Team Liquid look very bad, but we have some stats like Ole's huge goal, and even Doublelift's laning stats are generally neutral, which is good for Kai'Sa.
Right.
They just have to find a way to transition.
And stepping up against some of those big names is Breeze of Mad Team.
Now, Breeze is one of the shining lights of Mad Team. It's basically their jungler and their ADC. So again, it's that Ezreal pick. He is putting out good damage numbers. He looks confident in team fights, constantly chasing down. It's just how big is his champion pool, and are there enough other pieces on Team or Mad Team for them to actually pick up some wins in this group?
Now, changing our focus, though, to the first game of the day with 4 minutes till champions select. The LCK champions and one of the pre-tournament favorites in KT Rolster have looked absolutely unstoppable, going undefeated in their first round robin.
Yeah, no team has gone 6-0 so far at the World Championship. Even if it felt like RNG was going to do so, they actually went 4-2. No team has even gone 5-1. But after what we saw from the first week of KT Rolster, it feels like they can do it because they do look like they are very strong in every position.
Yeah, exactly. And also in every part of the game so far in this group. Like early game, they look like one of the best teams among the four. We've already seen a fantastic late game team fighting, something they've really improved on here in the summer split compared to the KT in the past, who could really throw away big leads with some really, really dumb late game decisions. But that's not really happening anymore, and that's why, you know, earlier when I said 6-0 KT, I was 100% on it. It's just, I don't see where these teams are going to punish them.
Yeah, and it's the fact that you can't even punish them in the one place that maybe you could have before, which was their very young mid laner in Yukal. He wasn't really known for his big step-up carry performances. He comes into World, he picks up the carries, and now he looks just as threatening and right at home, stacked between all these superstars.
Yeah, they move on to the quarterfinals with just 1 win today. Of course, they can play for seeding if they get a few more than that. On the other side, despite their performance in the first round robin, Team Liquid's Doublelift feels he's narrowed in on the team's issues.
Our team just has like this problem where we lose our minds on stage, like making calls that we just never tried before and are just really stupid and obviously bad, and players just like randomly splitting off and doing their own thing because they're focused on like laning. And like I'm guilty of this too, where like I focus more on my individual performance than what the team is doing when I go on stage, and I don't really know how to fix that other than to just remind myself every minute of like what the team play is and what I need to do to be a part of it. The only reason why we lost against KT and EDG, actually, the only reason why is because we tried to execute a team play and like 1 or 2 people weren't on the same page. and that's it. Like, if we did it as 5, we would have won easily. So, yeah, on stage, like, some switch flips in our heads. It's really bad.
Yeah, listening to that, you can definitely tell there are big communication issues within Team Liquid for team fighting. Their laning phase has been okay, but like we say, based on the eye test, when we're watching fights and people are jumping in totally different directions, they are in their own heads. And I thought there was an overcorrection from their KT game to their EDG game, and they have to try and find a stable middle ground, which has been an issue for this team.
Yeah, the issues, what Double F said here, that's actually why I think all of us didn't really put all our faith into TL in our predictions, because it's something we can't really actually predict if it's going to happen or not on stage. We can see the team is struggling on stage. We don't know how they're playing in scrims, but on stage, the team is clearly not on the same page, and it's hard to fix that in a couple of days, because it seems to be something bigger than just a lack of synergy.
All right, you said the eye test. We saw it in those Dragon fights, those Rift Herald fights, where the team rather seems to be out of sorts. Now, it's not a do-or-die game for them here against KT. They can't afford to drop it, still make it out, but a win here would be massive for the TL squad. The teams are ready for today's game, so let's leave it to Riv, Spawn, and Azael for Team Liquid versus KT.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bislin III, joined by Jake Spawn, Tiberi, and Isaac Azael Cummings Bentley. Gentlemen, we've had some topsy-turvy world so far with the unexpected happening. Do we expect that to happen today, though?
If there was ever a group that was going to provide some upsets, it would be a group with the North American Hope and Edward Gaming from the LPL, because neither of these teams on the international stage have been the life of consistency.
Yeah, they really haven't. It's always been kind of interesting for North America. Our #1 seeds have not usually been the ones to live up to expectation, but certainly it has been a good year for the West at Worlds so far. 2 groups, 2 Western teams have gotten out. Maybe TL could pull it off today.
Yeah, we are back into another day of elimination. The possibilities are endless, and everybody's kind of fighting for their own right to be first and second here. A lot of people are saying they expect a 6-0 KT Rolster, a 0-6 Mad. But can the mix-up happen? Starting here with Team Liquid versus KT Rolster.
And I want to talk about the pressure on KT Rolster, because this is a lineup that came in as a Korean super team, put together to take down SKT and then win a world championship. They weren't able to do it last year. We've seen ups and down performance already from the LCK representatives this Worlds. This is a team in Korea that has the most pressure put on them, but so far they have performed well.
Yeah, they really have been performing very well, and I think that, you know, with a fantastic performance today, with a 6-0 today, they would be coming out of groups looking like the favorite for the World Championship. But going into a couple days ago, everyone was saying you expect RNG to 6-0. You expect them to be dominant, and that certainly was not how the group turned out there.
Both of these teams have pretty much been made to win at Worlds. And man, will they try their hardest here on this elimination day. Ban phase 1 almost finished out. And we're going to see what KT Rolster has for this final usage of homework here as the Shen is banned out. Nothing for impact there.
And so far, the bans make a lot of sense to me. UCal seems to be a threat right now in the mid lane. Pobelter does need to be on a scaling option, I think, if TL are going to be successful. I like things like the Galio, like the Malzahar, so look for him to drop his priority in the pick ban. At the same time, I think Smithy must be able to get a better jungle matchup here. Alistair's going to help that out just through his pressure in the bottom lane. They need to be able to control scores pick if they want to have some success.
I'd also say this has been one of the better champions for Olay. He has looked somewhat shaky on both the Leona and the Rakan in this tournament. So Alistar, I do think, is a more straightforward engage. It is a lot easier to pull off, but you are giving over both the top lane priority here with the Urgot pick and potentially the Xayah takeaway. This would leave Kai'Sa available for TL, but that gives the bot lane 2v2 kind of over to KT.
Yeah, and just because of some meta reasons, I thought, you know, the Tahm Kench as well as Shen probably support takeaways here, but you do have to remember that they're some of Impact's best picks there in the Shen and the Sion being taken off the board. So interested to see whether the tank top laner of Team Liquid does go towards an Aatrox, try and fight some fire with fire versus someone like Smeb.
He could, but I mean, I honestly would be somewhat surprised. I mean, he does it, but this has historically not worked out well for Impact at Worlds. When you think back to last year even, traditionally he doesn't do well on the carry versus carry matchups at MSI also. He has mostly succeeded on tanks.
And that's because a lot of what goes for the resources is all to double lift. Everything that bottom lane on a Sivir, you don't need to do that as much. He offers from that position no matter what on that utility champion. So it'll be pretty crazy to see Impact going back to that aggression in the top lane.
We do have to note, though, this could be a flex to mid. So it is possible that Pobelter will be playing the Aatrox. Certainly don't expect it to be going anywhere else. That would be a little bit too crazy. But so far, the draft, I think, looking very good for KT. Smeb with the Urgot on the top lane should have priority. You've taken away Doubleus, #1 pick by far with the Kai'Sa. Gragas is one of Smithy's best jungle champions and something that can actually affect the early game very, very well. So KT has not only taken comfort for themselves, but they've taken it away from TL.
And I think that the jungle takeaway means that they can now focus heavily on the mid lane bans, just because they know they've already got Smithy's best performing champion so far is what he played last game to be able to pick up the first blood. Now if you start hitting Talia as well, puts even more pressure on the two members that you feel must be able to perform as a core of the map for TL to get some advantages.
I wonder if we see Pobelter bringing out his first Malzahar of the tournament. Something along those lines I think could really make a lot of sense for them. They are pretty physical damage heavy right now. It is something that is considered generally a fairly stable mid laner. That being said, UCal very likely will be left with the counter pick, and that is going to be a very frightening prospect for TL and Pobelter when UCal has been a monster.
The other small takeaway is you can see TL very aware that could be a Gragas support coming out from Martha, just because it is considered one of the better matchups into Alistar, can stop a lot of that aggression. So still potential for Score to take something here. And we've seen things like Poppy Jungle rise to popularity against the Alistar Aatrox combos just because of how much presence it has in the team fights and being able to shut down the aggression.
Out of phase 2 for bans, that Kindred take it away from Score along with Talia, Galio, and Ornn as we take away the tanks for Pobelter and Impact. What is the pick for KT Rolster? Possibly locking in that jungler, letting us know where that Gragas is going. They have 8 seconds to hover.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if it was a Graves. I think they want something with a little bit more presence on the map. Whilst in a similar vein, it is a farm-heavy jungler. There is a physical damage threat, given the fact that, you know, with the Kai'Sa, you need to be able to balance out your comp. Something that certainly suits heavier into KT's favor. But I want Smithy to go early game. You know, where is the Olaf? Where is, you know, Lee Sin not a champion he's known for. Xin Zhao maybe, something along those lines. Have some impact down in this bottom lane.
Yeah, I'm really looking at Olaf or Xin. It is going to be the blind LeBlanc for Pobelter, so throwing down the gauntlet here against UCal should be very interesting, but already you can see KT trying to set up for a heavy dive comp, a lot of engage, a lot of follow-up to attack Doublelift on this low mobility carry.
And I like it because even though it's an assassin pick, it is considered the safest assassin available. You know, things like Syndra are a skill matchup, but you should be able to weather or survive that laning phase. Some mid laners like Jensen even show that you can thrive in that situation. And it's not going to be an early game focused jungler, so a little bit more late game scaling right now seems to be the MO.
Yeah, very heavily weighted towards that end of the spectrum. They were hovering the Zim, but decided to go for the Skarner. They do have quite a bit of physical damage in this composition, and there's not really a lot of fantastic things to QSS. So while you will still have to pay that tax, it's not like you're getting, you know, a Morgana binding that you can also QSS and all these other things. So if you can force QSS out of a number of these different carries, that could be pretty effective. That being said, we are going to get the Lissandra as the last pick, the answer to this LeBlanc. And Lissandra plus Nocturne post 6 can be so terrifying for LeBlanc. If you get hit by that one ultimate from Lissandra, Nocturne flies in, certainly a potential to lock down and burst out this LeBlanc.
And this is another one of those pick bans where you look at it and you say, is it a dive comp or is it a 1-3-1? Because they have split damage threats that can go into either lanes against only Bruiser. So if they get snowballed, there is the opportunity to open up the map. Nocturne can attack that side lane and you have a reasonably safe 2 to be in the mid lane. At the same time, you then think about, you know, Urgot flashing into team fights, how effective this champion has been. Certainly some flexibility in the KT Rolster comp if they're playing from even or ahead.
I really think so much of this game will come down to how the solo lanes of TL will perform. The recipe that most people have been putting out for Team Liquid is stability in the solo lanes. Picks like Sion, picks like Ornn, picks like Malzahar and Galio. We have LeBlanc and Aatrox. That is high variance champions right there. If LeBlanc, Pobelter, and Impact can perform, there's a high chance that they can really have a big impact in this game. But if you fall behind, those champions tend to start looking pretty worthless.
Talking about the solo lanes here, that Aatrox Urgot matchup is flipped from the first time. Impact was on that Urgot, and we had Smeb on the Aatrox, so it's a little bit of who can do it better. This time, there was a lot of intervention from Score in that top lane to swing things, and Team Liquid had a rough early game. Can they change it around? I mentioned before, both of these teams really made to succeed at Worlds. Let's see who can do it here today in the rematch of Team Liquid versus KT Rolster.
Home crowd very pumped up for this first match of the day. The KT fans certainly coming out in droves, and it is worth noting some of the runes that have been chosen here. UCal going with the Aftershock, certainly one to note. This is less laning focused. This has been talked about. It's more about survivability, more about creating space in the backline, being able to dive in on your targets, have the tankiness with the Aftershock, then use the self ultimate. The Zonia is just creating that zone where a Sivir cannot really enter. And it's worth noting that Doublelift, this is his first game, of Sivir since, I think, he didn't play at all in summer, maybe back in spring, but it's been quite some time.
It is a fun combo, though. Sivir Alistar is one of those picks that if you can get the shove in the bottom lane, which they should be able to do, then you can start speeding your Alistar into the mid lane. You don't even need to be a part of the gank. You just unlock the rest of the map. And it's going to be crucial because you look at the force of engage that they have. You're going to have to get a Skarner in there somewhere. You're going to have to get your Aatrox in there somewhere. All of a sudden, Sivir playing multiple roles in this composition right now for the Liquid lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how much priority people are putting on that move speed and engage for even an Aatrox.
Yep.
Ghostblade has become so popular for that champion that people are sometimes even just going Kindlegem straight into a Ghostblade. Sivir is going to give you even more on top of that. So you get the initial burst of movement speed from the ultimate. If you combination, with that Ghostblade as well as a Sivir ultimate, you really can fly in and get on top of these carries.
And you should have some push in this laning phase. Aatrox, even though he historically loses this matchup later, does have some good AoE clear to be able to push in. LeBlanc holds the threat, as we can see in the mid lane. And bottom lane should also eventually start pushing in at about the level 5 mark as well. So there is room for Smithy to get busy, to path around the jungle, try and battle ward, outscore, delay that level 6, and have some impact.
And I really like that call, talking about delaying the level 6, because I think that this is very much about the race to 6, the race to the first effective ultimate. So much of games like this, I think when you have 2 farm to 6 junglers, can depend on that first gank. Can Nocturne get off that really important first gank and start snowballing, or can Smithy have more effectiveness coming out of the jungle? Because really, you're not expecting to see anything much happen pre-6.
Slowly pushed it on the bot side. Deft and Mata get themselves positioned to push into the jungle. This will give an idea of where Xmithy is, so KT really has the advantage now to slow down that 6 window from their side onto Team Liquid.
Yeah, and people would be thinking, how did Alistar that starts with the execute on the minions as well as the Sivir get pushed into turret? Well, it's all about where the jungle has started.
It's a good point.
KT starts topside, they leash with Smeb, so he gets shoved in early. All of a sudden, Smithy gets a 2-man leash down bottom lane, try and catapult him into a quicker jungle clear. He's about to finish up right now, and that's kind of why the map is shoved on opposite sides and allows them to path away from each other, which I think in this situation probably suits Score just fine. He wants to have impact with that first ultimate.
Yeah, he certainly does, and we'll be racing towards that level 6, but it is worth talking about the fact that last time these two teams did play in the early game, it was fairly even on. It was KT taking over in the later stages around the objectives, executing better in the team fights. But TL, did have a fairly stable game in those early stages.
Yeah, and it looked like TL wanted to make moves and then kind of botched the executions a couple of times and kind of got a little bit gun shy. Didn't want to necessarily make the all-out aggressive play. And that's when you're playing into a very good Korean team's hand. When you're giving them all of the options to be able to punish you, it is very hard to try and turn those plays around. So then TL kind of came out against EDG and said, that's it, we're making every play. Like, we're first on the map every single time. That also didn't work. So the analyst desk actually called for some balance, and we'll see whether they can execute on that.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because I kind of tend to feel like, again, against Mad, in that victory, they went back to playing as safe as possible, right? They were sitting at a 10,000 gold lead. It took them, near 40 minutes, if I recall correctly, to close out that game. So they were certainly playing fairly passive. that you could tell they were looking for 100% plays, and you are not going to be presented with 100% plays against a team of KT's caliber. You're going to have to pick your moments. You're going to have to find those opportunities and force your will upon your opponent.
We were talking about the early game, Xmithie having a much better time in this rematch. Doublelift had to have blown Flash, as we remember, kind of face-checking a bottom brush. Score was able to 3-buff, and like you said, Team Liquid staying a bit even with those mistakes. So what happens now if they can get to 6 first? The map's still been quiet here, coming up on 6 minutes itself with just a 300 gold lead in the favor of KT Rolster.
And you can see already that UCAL, very smart idolization, goes back, gets himself a null magic panel. So you're asking what happens if all of a sudden maybe you don't have the burst damage for the mid lane. Bottom lane, that's going to be a 50-50 if you get counter ganked. Potentially you can look at top, but once again, it's a similar situation. I think that this could be a very slow early game where potentially TL have to try and make some plays around Dragons, around Heralds one more time.
Yeah, I really do agree. You know, we'll have to see where they want to try to attack, but I think the Null Magic Mantle, so much value for the 450 gold there. It's going to, eliminate essentially any early game spell pen if Pobelter decided to go for that route. That in combination with the Aftershock makes a gank on UCAL very unappealing, and normally LeBlanc really wants to look for those 2v2s in those 1v1 plays. Xmithie could look towards the top side, but Urgot as well is fairly tanky, and as he's hitting 6, Score will be also, and has the potential of a counter game.
And this is one thing that KT does very well. You can see the play is on the bottom side of the map, and I say this a lot, but where is the play right now for TL? Well, it's probably top side, so Smeb, make sure that his wave's pushed out as his jungler wants to start up that dragon. He recalls, so while Xmithie gets a Scuttle Crab, no Rift Herald available, all of a sudden Smeb back in base on a good shot there for a Phage, no effective gank available.
You can see how KT is actually holding this wave. They're trying to set up for a freeze so that Score can get in position for the ultimate. He just hit 6, and they have held this wave near their turret. Mata, they're TPing this 4-man bot.
Ultimate in, they want Doublelift first. He gets himself a bit to safety, but they're actually going to be able to take Ole down immediately with that damage. Nicely done with the change of focus. UCAL teleporting in for a little help there.
And perfect setup, perfect execution. They get everything. They get every single summoner spell. Bottom lane, they get the first blood. KT off to a great start.
Yeah, that was really, really well done, and so well set up by Deft and Mata. You could see Doublelift and Ole wanted to reset the wave, but Deft kept holding it, keeping it frozen in this one kind of semi-neutral spot, so it never actually gets all the way to the turret. It's constantly pushing towards them, and then Mata going forward. TP's coming in from UCAL. He has already left lane. This was about, I think, as well handled as it could have been by the TL bot lane, but the setup is just too damn good from KT.
And even Score's Spell Shield there. He allows himself to be punted. It's in the right direction. Yeah. He then Spell Shields the Pulverize. He knows that they're probably looking for their first shot. Everything there is just well thought out, well constructed. They don't even burn the second teleport. They know there's going to be no contest. Just the minimum used for the maximum gain.
Yeah, the one bright spot on a rainy day for TL is that they did at least get 4 summoners from their opponents. The TP is down, Flash from Score, ultimate there. So you need to look now for that Xmithie counterpunch. He was able to take away his opponent's red and is going to get a 3 buff on this cycle. But you want to see the Skarner now making a play before Nocturne's ultimate comes back up, because there's this window of opportunity where the Nocturne cannot just counter gank you with the ultimate.
And you have to remember, this is also that moment where Doublelift is saying this flip, or this switch flips for us. We're not able to kind of produce aggression, results. And now they may be put on the back foot here by a first gank in the bot lane. Resources given to Deft, something KT love to do to get this guy going. He has something like 46% of the team's lead before 10 minutes in the game, and you can see why. He is getting all of that effect from the rest of the team.
Yeah, and that's the unique thing about Deft. It was seen as a laning AD carry for a time in career, but for the rest in China, but for the rest of his career has been that team fighting insurance policy for all of his teams. If you throw him some gold early, they can then play towards their solo lanes, look to set up the map, and if it does go late, Deft on Kai'Sa will be able to clean up some of these fights.
Yeah, he's more kind of the insurance policy rather than the dependency, right? When you have guys like UCAL who are stepping up since he has come in, for KT, they have been looking so damn good, and Nocturne Ultimate is available once more.
It's so spooky. Turn the lights on.
Dark and scary place out there. Be careful.
Hiding in the side. Oh, Frozen Tomb instantly onto Pobelter. He's getting himself to safety, but they get the Glacial Fist over. Score and UCAL coming up with a kill there.
Ultimate.
Teleport's going to be stopped as well on that one.
What can you do against this team? You just see it. They turn the lights out. They think that they have 2 members there. Maybe even a pinch can be available, but they play it so well again.
They really did, but Pobelter, honestly, pulling the Nocturne back to Smithy, that should have been a counter kill. You should be able to get that guy ulted into your turret instead. Smithy does not have the patience. You need to wait out the spell shield, wait till that is down, then commit the ultimate there from Skarter. Instead, he tries to go for it. Score spell shields it, so not only do they get another kill, your ultimate is wasted, you have no pressure, and you didn't get a counter kill. It's just disastrous for TL.
And I think the key word in this game is going to be the pressure that TL is currently feeling. They've given up the early game. Absolutely. 2 kills going over, 2 carries now getting rolling. It would be thinking, you know what, we didn't play aggressive enough. We allowed them to make too many plays. It's happening again. How do we shut down this powerhouse? And the dangerous thing is, if you set the stakes of the day, they don't even necessarily have to. This is a team that can lose this game, can win against EDG, force a tiebreaker, and potentially still get out of group. But they want the destiny in their own hands.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, in North America and traditionally for TL, it's been about Smithy in the early game, trying to make things happen. But at this tournament, he has not really been a big contributor. He has not been able to make things happen as frequently in the early game. And when you're facing a team like KT, when you're facing a team like EDG, you don't have big skill advantages in the lane matchups. You depend more than on your jungler to get involved, to mix things up, and to really take advantages. But that's very hard for him, especially when you're facing off against Score.
And Score isn't actually a jungler that Deft or Smab or the lanes actually need to be proactive in their lane. So you got to figure in a game where he does have the assist and 100% kill participation, things are going to get messy for Team Liquid. And there we see Smithy going down as KT starts to invade.
Just a beautiful ultimate there from Mata, knocking in Smithy. Not much of a chance to respond there, and it's looking like KT could go towards this Rift Herald and try to use it to get a first turret.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The swap came out beforehand. They know what the next play is. They set up a line of pink wards, the deep ward inside the jungle just behind the blue buff. They're prioritizing the Rift Herald. They're trying to get the early game rolling. However, we have seen this go poorly for teams. Rift Herald, objective if you get contested on, can go badly.
Certainly possible, but Smithy is so far away, I don't think they can even try to really contest it. It would be very, very difficult, and you know, Doublelift at this point in the game, Sivir really does want to get some items before really getting too involved.
Pushed back in mid lane, Impact and Pobelter trying to defend a small wave from UCal and Smab, but here's Rift Herald already. KT leaving nothing to chance and no time to waste as they try to set a frantic pace on this game already. 3 kills to Team Liquid, and mid-turret will fall for first turret blood as well, as KT is raking in the money.
But once again, a flash out of Smithy, no grab there, not in range of anything. UCal just pops the ultimate, first turret goes down. There's another dragon now up and available. They have complete control over this map, and it just doesn't look like Team Liquid have any answers to the pace that KT are currently setting on the game.
Yeah, KT are setting up the plays better. They're executing on the plays better. They are straight up outplaying TL, really in all categories right now, but TL trying to make a play here. We'll see if they can turn it around.
Impact thrown down World Ender. They have Smab right in the middle of everything and Score, and UCal trying to come in and affect the fight, but they have to turn away. Top lane is going back and forth in the 2v2, so they can't come down to help. The flash in the Ring of Frost from UCal.
Score's
and
low.
It puts Score in a real bad spot. Pobelter with the auto does get as the Ignite comes through as well. And now they're on the chase to UCal. Impact with World Ender down may not go fully under the turret, but KT biting off more than they can chew.
And finally, a punish out of the Team Liquid lineup. KT was playing like they didn't have an opponent, but they respond in a good fashion and they pick up the 2 kills.
Yeah, Mata had been pushed back to base as well, so TL making something happen finally. They do push up on the top side, are going to be able to get a preferential back here as well. They do trade +1 in the kills also, so positive for TL that they are now trying to continue to stay proactive. This had been a problem for them in the past. When their first punch fails, they do tend to kind of back off and not have the confidence king.
That's the base check.
Whoa, Deft going in, try to bait out Pobelter there and also get the ward clear. As you can see, it's actually pinked out, so he did not know, and almost getting another kill around the map. Pobelter trying to be omnipresent as we head back down to the dragon fight.
You can see this dragon fight coming out one more time. They are able to focus down Smeb, finally getting use out of that Skarner ultimate, but then KT kiting back, feeling the confidence to go forward here as the World Ender expires.
Yeah, it certainly did. They flash forward, they use some summoner spells. They do pick up 1 kill, but ultimately probably not a worthwhile trade. All of a sudden, Pobelter feeling a little bit more involved in this game from previously being shut out. He's got the 2 kills, and LeBlanc's still one of those champions that if you're someone like Death at this stage, you don't want to get rolling.
It's really just good to see that TL are trying to stay proactive, even though they had been outplayed in the earlier game, even though their early plays had all kind of failed, you see Pobelter still roaming up to the top side. They're not backing away from the fights. This is something that they have really talked about needing to be able to do, but its impact now, no ultimate available, and that was an exhausting night. Double Spellbook Summoner spent there from Smeb, so no chance of fighting back for impact.
But I like this because all of a sudden you can see the bottom lane is rotating back down towards the bottom side of the map. There is the Mountain Drake available. There is a turret there. Smeb using both of the summoner spells now won't be able to contest for that wave. So finally TL with a well set up proactive play, going to look to knock down a turret, going to look to take themselves a Mountain Drake.
Talked a little bit about the pace being set by KT with Rift Herald in mid. TL say let's switch the map and cause KT to play reactive.
And I do want to stress that whilst game number 1 between these two games was decisive, it didn't really look like there were all that many windows for TL to play back into. It also wasn't an outright stomp where individual players were looking completely outclassed. It just looked like a well-oiled machine rolling over the top of TL. This time around, they have done a good job of just halting the bleeding and trying to trade sides of the map after about the 10-minute mark.
We also have to remember how TL looked in the first days at MSI versus how they looked in the later stages of that tournament. Once they got their stuff together, the confidence built. They were able to take games off RNG, but KT, that being said, is taking turrets left and right.
Extra wave in the bot side. Doublelift and Ole couldn't really take the turret down right away, and they're even spending more time too as mid could go down. KT really turned around what could have been TL, like you said, stopping that bleeding, but it seems to be dripping a little bit still.
And once again, this is KT's game. They like to play up, pressure, try and take the maximum every time. There was no punish there. At the Dragon, there was a punish, so you still have to be hopeful that if they continue to play on that razor's edge, that they too make mistakes, because this isn't a flawless team. They just look very good. Will once again knock down another turret, extend that gold lead to about 2,000, but you can see Doublelift still accumulating farm. Things are okay right now for TL.
They are.
Now in his environment, if you look off to the side, where he normally is.
You got to be careful, though. I mean, if you stay out too long, Nocturne does have the ultimate. It looks like he will be able to recall in time, so they accept, hey, we're not going to be able to defend that. They have given up already, though, both of those mid lane turrets. They gave up the top lane turret. The tier 2 took a fair bit of damage there as well. We'll see, you know, if TL can stabilize. This gold lead is certainly not monumental for KT. It's a nice early advantage, but it's not the end of the world yet. And if TL were to win a fight, there is more gold to recoup on the map.
I want to take a look at UCal's item build here for a second, because it is a little bit different. We've seen a lot of, you know, one threat comps. This certainly isn't that, but we've seen mid laners be more willing to play utility type roles than before, and I think it was Licorice that showed us this Aftershock Lissandra first. Now UCal invests even further into that with the item build.
And I think your point that it isn't a one threat comp is an important one here, because when you are running a team with no true frontliner, yes, Urgot, you know, is a frontline, but he's not really a tank. You can afford to go for more of these kind of hybrid, somewhat tanky builds. And you have all of these members that are all individually somewhat tough to take down, and then you add in things like the Stopwatch and the Zonias, and all of a sudden there's so much space being created. You can see Asterix perhaps being built towards here from Score, the Banshees into Leandries with the extra HP there, and the Aftershock from UCal. So all of these members are going to be more difficult than normal to take down.
And how much does that kind of escalate what Team Liquid has to do to notice they're being outbuilt? Oh, I just built damage on the side of KT. What's that next move to say, we need to stop this?
Well, I actually think this is good scouting from KT. The reason I bring it up is because the way that TL generates a lot of their late game gold leads in the NALCS is through great team fighting around objectives. There's potentially going to be a collapse coming in here.
Yeah, TL looks like they could be flanked here. Nocturne ult is available. They're going to go.
Nice hit out by the explosive cast. Mata gets a good separation on the fight as TL try to find a way back into their priority targets. That's Xmithy in a bad spot as he flashes over the wall. Impact's ready to dive in as Pobelter comes through, but he's pretty low on mana and cannot offer much. KT is also looking to get back into this fight, but they'll go ahead and start to push mid. That's Deft on bot lane still, pushing in.
And that's 5 turrets now for KT. They're knocking down these outer turrets so quickly. Was a good disengage, though, from TL that had the potential to be a disastrous fight. Was a great sidestep on the Urgot ultimate there from Doublelift, avoiding that. Smithy gets out as well. So it is the turrets going the way of KT, but it is not the kills in addition. And Pobelter did trade back a turret on the top side of the map before collapsing.
And this is what I want to keep going back to, that this isn't an individual outplay of KT, you know, crushing their opponents. This is just them jockeying for position, being there a little bit earlier, always trading up in an effect to the lead now of 3 turrets. And this means that they are sitting on a gold lead. Their itemization is starting to come online a little bit earlier because of the hybrid between damage and tank stats. And there is going to be a time now where if they get to Baron first, set up their vision, TL are going to have to face check them.
Yeah, and while the gold leads aren't massive, it is so important when it results in an additional completed item. When you look at depth right now on Rageblade Stormrazor, that is so much more powerful than the Stormrazor plus Zeal from Doublelift. Having those item completions really does multiply your power very heavily. So we could look to see KT trying to force fights with their hard engage as they complete 2 items, knowing that it will be that much faster than most of the members of TL.
Well, that 20-minute mark on the map means that KT will start to focus those pink wards towards the top side. Still only 4-2 with how much KT has been in the face of Team Liquid here, tempting and taunting these fights left and right, and so much respect being given to KT now from Team Liquid.
And you can see that Team Liquid now is going to have to start playing a little bit more bold. They're going to have to push waves as far as they can. They're going to have to look for pockets of vision, a little bit above Baron, maybe cheeky in the brushes. You see Smeb just walk over there, because otherwise they're in a situation, actually good chunk. Not all that much resulting on the back of it, end of it, but they're in a situation, if they don't play around these, you know, windows, like little bits of preferential map movement, that they can just get strangled out of so much farm.
They really can. And I mean, you can see a farm advantage is developing in the top lane because TL has been prioritizing those side lanes. They are sending Impact and Pobelter to always collect those waves, where Smeb has been grouping more frequently. And you know, if you can use a kind of 1-3-1 style of play and commit more heavily to that, Sivir is very strong at clearing out these waves and has a fair bit of protection with the Skarner and the Alistar sticking by him. But that being said, the dive from KT is incredibly good. So not only could you get picked off in a side lane, Lissandra, Gragas, as well as that Nocturne.
Oh, break the Banshee's Veil. They're right in under UCal. Could this be where Team Liquid flips the game on its head? KT's already ready to respond. Frozen Tomb saves UCal, but he goes down. Doublelift gets the kill off, and On the Hunt is there for more of a chase. But it looks like they stop for now with the slight advantage.
Yeah, there wasn't enough damage initially, but they continue with the play. Then they successfully disengage on the other side. That is so far a 1-for-0, and they're looking for more potentially.
And it was good zoning from Pobelter, stopping KT from being able to move over and back up UCal. So now they're going to the Dragon with already having gotten a pick. This is something people have been talking about in the past days. They did not have that preparation. They did not have the advantage before going to the Dragon. Today they do, and they pick up their second mountain, which could unlock an early Baron.
Great job by Team Liquid, avoiding the fights as much as possible until, like you said, getting to those objective fights, being able to somewhat play around the map when something is on the mind of KT, and they actually play right on the mind of UCal there, blowing the Banshee's Veil and going in all in.
And I just want to juxtapose this to the first game when they were so hesitant around objectives. This time it's a Hex Splash over the wall, the full committal. All of a sudden it's only really Pobelter split. He is one of the most mobile champions in the game. There's no way you're catching him after cooldowns have burnt. So they get the 1-for-0 trade, they get the Dragon, and slowly but surely they are starting to creep their way back into this contest.
They certainly are, right? And now you look at the itemization for the AD carries, and it's looking pretty solid there for TL. The kill was picked up, I do believe, by Doublelift, and you know, you saw Pobelter on the side, drawing in Nocturne, drawing in Deft, gets the ultimate out, backs off, and you need to have your LeBlanc playing confidently, and this is looking like a much different Pobelter than when we saw him on Galio. He has been enabled by the pick, and he's been playing confidently and executing well.
Because the thing about a dive comp is you give them freedom. If they're able to engage onto Doublelift, you know, if it isn't that clumped up fight, then they're just going to take him down. Potentially a flank coming in here from UCal.
This is that engage you might be talking about. Ring of Frost quickly onto Xmithie and Ole. Xmithie trying to get the stun onto Mata, but now he's locked up and taken down. A double kill for Deft. Possibly onto Ole, but Killer Instinct going to be hold on that one. Impact coming around from the right side as Baron may be tempted by KT here to take down the last 3 members of Team Liquid.
I think it's going to be there. So hard to challenge this when Mata still has Flash. It's 3v5, but they feel they can't give up the Baron, just like last time. KT got a winning fight into Baron, and that sealed the game.
Straight in, they throw it on the Paranoia so they cannot see anything from the side of Team Liquid. Resurrecting on the side of Impact, but he's gonna go down instantly as he's left by Ole and Doublelift. Outside of the fight, Ring of Frost will finally take him down as Baron is secured by Deft and KT Rolster.
And this is following such a similar trajectory to the first time these teams played. One mistake in the mid lane, a little bit over-aggressive for this turret, and KT make him pay.
Yep, and that was just the thing of beauty from Mata. Predicting where Pobelter would go back to that distortion. Gets ulted straight back in, no way to escape after that, and then the CC locking down Skarner, taking him out, and in the eventual 3v5, there was no way for Doublelift to ever really enter.
And that's what I wanted to talk about. If Mata can create kind of a gap between himself and the carries around those fights, all of Siv's power just falls off because she relies on being able to send damage through the front line, but onto hitting the back line. And you can see there was enough space, there was enough zone created. That's going to be Smeb's job. That's going to be Mata's job in these team fights. If they do have to fight front to back, which now with the Baron they might not have to, they're going to try and create pockets of areas for control. TL need to be able to force them back at the start of this fight.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though. I mean, TL, a lot of what they've been using to kind of delay is these side lane tactics. And with the Baron buff there to enable KT to push in, it becomes very, very difficult. You may be forced into that head-on engagement or kind of peeled apart here. Oh, double blow.
Deft. Walking straight up in the face of danger to take Doublelift down to half. He's staying for now, possibly to give the team ultimate. Heal has been used on that summoner for Doublelift as well. In an uncontested first inhibitor turret goes down in mid. 7-3, now coming up onto 26 minutes. And Team Liquid is losing structures across the map. UCal's now pushed in the bot lane, and they're going to start on another inhibitor turret. Grabbed in with Impale. UCal could be going down. The pop-ups are huge as the health bars start going low. And Impact's going to be resurrecting now as he can't deliver any more damage in. They've lost Ole. The crowd controller's there. Doublelift trying to get the auto-spacing aim, but he can't even take down Smeb with the damage he has right now. A triple kill for Deft as they're inside Team Liquid's base.
And KT will just not be stopped. They pick up the ace at 26 minutes, and they're going to look to close this one out.
Just too good. KT Rolster here making the individual outplays. The team fighting is so on point. And they are going to make it look easy to close this one out as soon as they get that Baron.
Nexus turret number 2 goes down, and KT Rolster with their eyes on the prize take down Team Liquid.
And it was Doublelift that talked about flipping the switch. Well, wow. KT, good early game, kind of a little bit of a shaky mid-ish game. Slam the door as soon as they get one team fight. It's just unrelenting against this team.
And with that, KT should lock quarterfinals. No way that two teams can pass them. EDG could potentially, but the other two squads cannot match that 4 wins, meaning they are guaranteed at least first or second in the group. And you can see the smiles on their faces. They are the hope of Korea and have been looking so damn good.
And it's just all class. They know where they need to be on the map. They know how to itemize. They know which fight is a winning fight and which fights maybe they need to disengage from. You know, one error potentially around the Dragon when they went 2 for 1. That's the entirety of the mistakes you can talk about for the team. And that is just very impressive League of Legends.
It looks like a team that was made to reach for that Summoners Cup, and they're putting on a show on the way there. We'll see how far they can go now. Like we said, a number 1 or 2 spot in this group, so things are looking good for KT Rolster. For more on how they locked that spot in quarterfinals, let's head over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you, Riv. A very quick victory for KT Rolster over Team Liquid here to secure their spot in the semifinal, seeding to be determined. Slow start, low kill game, but a very explosive finish.
And I think that was really coordinated from the draft, essentially, by KT. It felt like KT's score on that Nocturne really set the tempo of the game. You see the Nocturne, you see the Kai'Sa, and this isn't going to be an explosive early game from KT. They say, grind it to level 6, use the ultimate, and then every single time that window was available, KT were making choices off of it.
Yeah, I actually think a lot of teams, NA and European teams, are struggling with the Nocturne specifically. They
LPL too.
Well, LPL can also do, but I actually have played it a lot now. They've actually learned to take it in this tournament and use it against these other teams, because what ends up happening is, 1, you don't get to punish the Nocturne in the early game enough. And then 2, whenever he ultis and there's this long cooldown on the ulti, we don't see teams be very proactive and say, okay, Nocturne is now useless for almost like a minute and a half. We should do something. We should force something. They kind of let the Nocturne farm up, get his ulti again, and then he fires another one. And it was very easy for Score, actually, in the early game to just pick people off in 2 different lanes.
Yeah, and I do feel like this game extended the same way that the first time these teams played did in a lot of ways. Like, fairly slow early game. You're approaching 20 minutes. You see TL's got 2 Mountain Drakes, and they're only down 1,000 gold. But, I mean, unlike the first game, TL made one proactive play, I feel like, when they were able to catch Lysandra in the mid lane to get them their second Mountain Drake. But aside from that, it felt like the whole game was TL trying to defend all of the pressure that KT had on them. And the Skarner windows versus the Nocturne windows, the Nocturne windows were much more effective.
And that's the really terrifying thing about KT, because I feel like a lot of fans will watch that game and not quite understand where everything went wrong. You know, you look at the scoreboard and it's almost like invisible power that you just can't really stack rank where it is. And it's this idea that everyone on KT can make those plays, that if you literally give them an inch, like Jake said it, the door slams shuts on you. It was immediately Mata grabbing that cask into a Baron.
I tell you where things went wrong first. It was the first blood in the bot lane. Off of that level 6 ultimate from the Nocturne, an easy first blood.
I think this was actually a really bad play by Team Liquid. I know Doublelift wants to shove in the turret because he hadn't had his recall yet, but Xmithy has been 6 for 20 seconds by now, and Ocean Drake was taken 30 seconds ago, so you know Nocturne has a very high chance of being bottom side. KT does what they need to do. They had the wave in the right place, but that is a respect play that Doublelift and Ole have to back, because if they push for that wave, they're going to die. And guess what? KT's never going to give you that wave. They're just going to kill you.
In the end, however, I think KT used a lot to secure a single kill right there. So when it happened, I was like, okay, cool, Team Liquid. On the other side of the map, Skarner's taking the red buff away from KT. Make a play, you know, go top lane, kill Smep or something. Did nothing.
I mean, do anything, right? Either you take advantage of a top side, or you back there and you go now kill the Gragas who just blew flash in that gank with your Skarner ultimate. Either way, neither of those things happen. The game extends forward, as you mentioned, at a somewhat slow pace until we get to the play that you're talking about in the mid lane. A really sweet play here out of Mata to catch out Pobelter.
And you just give him a single opening. He makes the prediction. He sweeps him back into the team, and KT turn it on, take the team fight, and immediately take the Baron.
And I think the timing was so perfect on the ulti that I don't even think Pobelter could have flashed when he returned to his original position, because it was like in this little blink animation of it hitting the original spot that he got knocked by the Gragas barrel here. And that's the kind of thing that happened. Like, you have this game where it feels a little bit even, but you constantly have the feeling that no, KT at some point will just pull the trigger perfectly to start a fight. And it can be Smep, it could be Score. In this case, it was Mata doing it. And that's kind of the problem when there's so many different playmakers, is you have to respect all 5. It's not just the one guy you're looking at, it's literally the entire team in these little moments.
But what's really devastating for me is then if you look at the other side against Team Liquid, we constantly say, okay, Impact, Pobelter, these are the guys that we need to look at to really step up. And I feel like they actually did that this game. You know, we were a little bit iffy in the draft phase. Pobelter comes out with the LeBlanc. Impact grabs not a tank, but instead takes the Aatrox. He actually had a CS lead on Smeb up in the top side, and Pobelter was perfectly fine over in those side lanes trying to create pressure. And it's like, what more does TL have in the tank? And they're still so far beneath KT.
Yeah, there will be some questions about how Team Liquid resets off of this loss. They have an hour to do it while watching their opponents in this next game, but we have to also recognize our MasterCard player of the game in Mata on that Gragas.
Yeah, we've seen so many players actually take the support Gragas here at Worlds.
Official calls it a trap.
Not anymore when Mata plays it.
But if you're going to make game-winning plays like that and also have a victorious laning phase with the Kai'Sa on your team, you can take it. You can take the support Gragas and have it be really good.
All right, so one person in the World Championship is allowed to take Gragas, and that would be Mata. My question, one more question before we go is, okay, if we think that Team Liquid actually did step up from, you know, their first round robin performance to here against KT, where can they find those little extra bits, you know, to shore up in order to make a run at EDG or Mad Team?
I mean, listen, they need to find more opportunities to make plays, and I don't expect them to beat KT. Like, KT is the bar for this tournament that everyone is trying to attain. So I think Team Liquid knew coming into this day they needed to beat Mad Team and EDG. This would have been nice, but it was not expected.
Is this good enough to do that?
I mean, it's about the same that everyone else has been beating KT.
Doesn't matter.
And I don't think it matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you play against KT. I got a little bit scared in the intro when I heard from Doublelift where he said, if we lose to KT, it might all be over. I'm like, no, dude.
I mean, is this good enough to beat...
You can still win.
Is this good enough to beat Mad or EDG?
I mean, based on my pregame predictions, I thought they were going to beat Mad and lose to EDG, but we'll have to see.
Mad and EDG will not play as well as calculated as KT did here. They did not give you
there will be more
openings.
opportunities against those teams than there is against
Pull the
KT.
trigger, you can win.
Without a doubt. Edward Gaming return to the stage as they face Mad Team for Game 2. Meet us here after the break for that matchup.
Oh, they're TPing this 4-man bot. Ultimate in, they want double lift first. He gets himself a bit to safety, but they're actually going to be able to take Ole down immediately with that damage. Hiding in the side. Oh, Frozen Tomb instantly onto Pobelter. He's getting himself to safety, but they get the Glacial Fist over.
I'm coming. I'm near the I got zoned. Don't play. Yeah. It's good. Hitting. Beginning Dragon. Nice.
UCal could be going down. The pop-ups are huge as the health bars start going low. And Impact's going to be resurrecting now as he can't deliver any more damage in. They've lost Ole. The crowd controller's there. Double lift, trying to get the auto spacing in, but he can't even take down Smeb. KT Rolster with their eyes on the prize. Take down Team Liquid.
The synergy of brute strength. Born of elite core power. To thrive under pressure in the most hostile conditions and built to overclock. Prepare for combat. Go forth and conquer.